many difficulties. But we have never had to put a wall up to keep our people in.
And Christy got the time wrong. She thought it was 4 p.m. PST.
I didn't even pull my curls out like the girl on CNN. Okay, whatever. I got the time totally wrong. I'm sorry. It's my fault, guys.
Yes.
I did a Marilyn Monroe move. I'm very late. She was always late. So here I am late. Okay. Richard Robinson, thank you much for your donation. And also, Malgazada Minta and an anonymous donation.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
All donations are welcome. Anonymous or non-anonymous. Ladies and gentlemen, here we are.
I made it. I had like 10 minutes to get ready. Seriously.
Is Europe the real enemy of America? Today, this is the question, and the answers are quite disturbing. But let's start with our show.
I'm here. Usually, I have some silent time
Christy
to
is here.
meditate.
Okay.
I don't know. I thought we started at 4.
No, we always start at 3.
When did we start doing that?
In the last couple of months.
Oh, goodness gracious. Okay, I just got it wrong.
I want to thank all those people who, of course, support us with the purchase of my books, in particular Volume 12, Volume 11, Volume 10, but of course, all of my books. And Christie's books, because they're also very important. And we are discussing a subject that might be a little bit, disturbing, like I said, the results of the fact that these Europeans... Well, guys, these Europeans, what about with you?
You're yelling in my ear. I was doing the signal, but you got it wrong again.
Okay. One thing, guys, that I want to really explain to you and make it clear, maybe majority of you doesn't know this. Meta, Facebook, announced in January 2025 that they will be ending the third-party fact-checking program in the United States, of course, because Trump was coming, it was returning at the White House, he was coming into power, and this third-party check system in the United States finally has been abolished. It became a little bit more similar. Everybody kind of got more similar to X, while instead this shift by Meta wasn't followed in Europe, because in Europe, Meta continues to this day to have independent third-party checkers doing exactly all the censorship they were doing to us during the Biden era. And this demonstrates how restricted and how censored the Europeans are. They have no freedom. Meta basically addresses so-called misinformation according to the Digital Service Act that in the EU imposes obligations on online platforms to counter disinformation. And not only that, you have also the United Kingdom, which is incentivizing censorship, and you cannot talk about Islam or against Islam because they ban you left, right, and center. Guys, this is just
they tell you what you think. They tell you what to think.
Yeah, but because that's the stuff of dictatorship. And I want to show you something by a very important institution, the Chicago Council on Global Affairs, and I will get Christy to read it. So it gives you an idea of how they want to portray the Europeans. Now, what we're going to be discussing today is, of course, what they will like the Europeans to think. But the majority of Europeans is also, they don't have any weapons. They don't have the possibility of rebelling. They risk, really, like I risked when I was there, to be arrested for a Facebook post or for an article or for something written in a book. So, I mean,
it's terrible to live like that.
It's absolutely,
gives you a complex.
It's really a terrible experience, guys. So I know that, you have all that romanticized version of Europe in your head, especially Italy, the mandolino, the pizza, the pasta, the BS, everything is the dolce vita. No, guys. If you are a tourist, that's no problem. But if you live there, then it becomes a real big problem. And of course, yesterday we saw this great meeting, this summit between two of the most important people on the planet, if not the most important, Donald J. Trump and Vladimir Putin. We hope that something will come out of it, but the left, of course, doesn't like it. The Europeans don't like it. I mean, the Europeans are the ones that if you elect the wrong person, they will basically cancel the whole election. They did it in Romania. If you are a threat to their stability or to their idea of Europe, like Le Pen in France, they will start indicting you on this and that account. Just listen to what Georgescu said in Romania a few months ago to Tucker Carlson.
First of all, I wish to, in fact, to mention that all I wish to guarantee, in fact, that all my actions represent nothing but a selfless sense of duty to my people, to my Romanian people. And of course, I have a dream of freedom and dignity for the Romanian people. I was denied by the globalist mafia, which they control this region like a colony. And of course, it's the same, let's say, intelligence group also present in this region, as well as the group which they try to destroy the campaign of President Trump as well. It was just a copy-paste with different subjects, including that I was falsely accused about foreign interference, particularly, of course, the Russian interference, exactly as President Trump was accused.
The Russian interference. Woo! Yesterday, we heard at one point Trump talking about, the problem of the Russian hoax that in some way interfered, yes, in the actual relations between him and Vladimir Putin. Welcome to the Leo Zagami Show. Today we are discussing a very inconvenient reality. Europe, and I'm not intending only the European Union, but Great Britain and the European Union, because since Brexit, Great Britain is not part of the European Union, so that's why I wrote Europe and not only the EU, is the real enemy of America. And I want to demonstrate that. I want to show you what they want the Europeans to think about Trump, about America. Check out what they're saying here. On July 17, 2025, the Chicago Council on Global Affairs, very connected to Europe and to the Democrats and all that, a crisis in confidence, European public opinion in the Trump era. European perception of the United States has plummeted as a multilateral commitments wane and international tensions rise, recent surveys show. All the surveys. Now, please read this, Christy, because this is really incredible.
European public perceptions of the United States have declined in the wake of Donald Trump's second term as U.S. president, according to recent polling, with reasons ranging from questions about Trump's commitment to democracy to U.S. policy reversals in the Russia-Ukraine war to U.S.-imposed economic sanctions. Europeans now largely consider Trump's United States a threat to peace in the world. While press reporting has focused attention mainly on Trump's aggressive tariff policies, the White House has also taken measures to distance the United States from its multilateral commitments and to cease long-standing memberships in international liberal institutions.
Now, these institutions, guys, are all a bunch of globalist puppets, typical. One of them is the infamous World Health Organization.
Should read them. Maybe I should read them.
Read them.
Since his inauguration, Trump has withdrawn from the World Health Organization, United Nations Human Rights Council, Paris Climate Agreement, Loss and Damage Fund, and others. He has also expressed the desire to distance the United States from NATO, the International Criminal Court, and various smaller interstate organizations.
Let's not forget that if it was for this International Criminal Court, Vladimir Putin could not even have stepped probably here in the United States, in Alaska, because he's basically considered a criminal who needs to be arrested. He cannot go to Europe today because he might be arrested. Neither myself. Now, this is very important, guy, that you really realize why Europe is our enemy. First of all, the Illuminati were born in Germany, in Europe. Speculative Freemasonry was born in England, in Europe. The ancient ancestor Scottish Rite was born in France, in Europe. Everything that is really the part of this system, this new world order, is built in Europe. And it's built, of course, by what they consider old money, the families of influence that now, of course, are trying to obstaculate, we can say, to block the development of America, which is creating, of course, a new feudalism, I guess, with people like Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, and so on. So these people needed to be put on the leash, and that's why they gave them all these restrictions in Europe. The fact that Meta still has fact checkers in Europe should give you an understanding that there is here two different Western realities. People, once upon a time used to think that Europe was based on the freedom that comes from the United States. But in reality, that's not the case anymore. Then, when you're seeing these people writing this rubbish, stating that recent polling shows that Europeans are widely concerned and frustrated with new Trump administration, this is the people who are really against America are the European institutions, including Great Britain, the Freemasons, the Illuminati, the Jesuits. I exposed in this book and I demonstrated how the Jesuits are at the very foundation of the Bilderberg Club, of the European Community, and then the European Union. This is a very important book to understand the difference between America and Europe. because yes, we have had some influence by the Jesuits, and we unfortunately have half of this country in the hands of a party which is basically a Jesuit party, the Democrats. That's what they are. They are the political arm of the Jesuits. And of course, they would like to flood this country with millions of South or Central Americans because they are all Jesuit extracted, and they are, of course, controlled by the Jesuit NGOs later on, like we explained many times in this show. So the fact that Europe is the real enemy is Russia is not a real enemy. And to a certain extent, even China is less of a threat than Europe, because the European threat is more insidious. I want to explain you something regarding Europe. You see, we were used to the European Union being, put together by this Franco-German alliance, which I described also in volume 12 as, let's say, the core of Europe. But now Germany is in a big mess, economically speaking. Without the fossil fuels coming from Russia, both gas and oil, they have entered a crisis that is of immense proportions, that is basically risking to bring down the whole of the European Union. Economically, Germany, the only solution they have is to transform their factories that they used to make great cars into factories to make weapons against Russia. That is what is happening here. And so what we have seen yesterday, at one point of the discussion, Putin said something very important. There was this press conference. It was very brief on both sides. Of course, Putin was a little bit longer. He also loves history, so he wanted to talk about, what unites the United States and Russia, and the history of Alaska, the hundreds of names of Russian origin, and all that. But in any case, at one point he said something very important, which I want you to listen very carefully. This is, of course, Pursuing Peace. They had already had their 3 hours meeting, but at one point, Putin says something very, very important.
Will help us bring closer that goal and will pave the path towards peace in Ukraine. We expect that Kiev and European capitals will perceive that constructively and that they won't throw a wrench in the works. They will not make any attempts to use some backroom dealings to conduct provocations to torpedo the nascent progress.
So we're talking about Putin openly accusing Europe of torpedoing the peace process, of sabotaging. Let's listen again.
And I agree with President Trump, as he has said today, that naturally the security of Ukraine should be ensured as well. Naturally, we are prepared to work on that. I would like to hope that the agreement that we've reached together will help us bring closer that goal and will pave the path towards peace in Ukraine. We expect that Kiev and European capitals will perceive that constructively and that they won't throw a wrench in the works. They will not make any attempts to use some backroom dealings to conduct provocations to torpedo the nascent progress.
Okay, so this is very important, guys. This was a fragment, of course, of what Putin said, but it was irremediably one of the most important moments, because the accusation was rather clear here. The fact that Europeans want to sabotage this peace process, it's torpedoes, of course, from a submarine, somebody says in the chat, but the clear accusation that Europe doesn't want this peace. Europe doesn't want this peace. And this is very sad in a way, because the European opinion, the way they want to craft the European opinion, I'm not saying that the Europeans are all this way, because we know what kind of Europeans are the ones who support this
Absolutely.
nonsense.
Yeah.
Those kind of Europeans are.
It's the majority, though.
Well, it's the majority. It's the majority because they get brainwashed by the TV, but the majority of the working folk doesn't think very much about these kind of things. They nowadays just hope to get by because it's always about paying bills and surviving. Then there is instead the people in the universities who brainwash the youth, who unfortunately push this narrative which is made of convincing the Europeans that Trump is a threat, that Russia is a threat, and that we need to embrace wokeism, we need to embrace all the demented values that is. It's like they want to really become our enemies. They are not our friends anymore. Now, because the Europeans have not realized that yet, this is becoming, it's like this gap is becoming bigger and bigger. We saw at the beginning of the year, of course, J.D. Vance talking about it at the Munich Security Conference, stating, you have abandoned those values of liberty, of freedom. It's like, once upon a time, the American way was, the American, when everybody in Europe, they used to dream one day maybe come to America and live this American dream. Instead, nowadays, America is described as a nightmare, and they are the ones who somehow claim they're defending these liberal values that are so important. And they do it with surveys who are, of course, completely fake. I mean, because probably the surveys are conducted. But maybe, like Christy said, there is a lot of people that get convinced. Yeah, the normal folk.
The normal folk in the piazza were thinking the same thing.
Yeah, you think that they were really brainwashed?
Yeah, I do.
European Union and European opinion on the United States plummet after Trump re-election. And but I tell you, here it says across 7 countries, Great Britain, France, Germany, Denmark, Sweden, Spain, and Italy, it dropped by roughly 8 percentage points since November 2024. This decline is especially pronounced.
It's none of their business.
Yeah, but in fact, they have all this, here, this European favor.
Who cares?
Well, who cares? The problem is that we continue to send money and weapons to Ukraine. I understand that the military industrial complex wants to continue financing this idiotic war, but at the same time, we should instead abandon Europe, go into business with Russia. And I know the roots of many Americans, like myself, are in Europe. The roots.
I'm like 98% Northern European.
But the problem is they are so brainwashed. And I think that the problem here is that this brainwashing that they constantly have doesn't make them understand. And when Georgescu, says this kind of things, people should have really listened.
Nevertheless, there are not evidence. And of course, related with this foreign interference, I was just to mention that all the system, 100% in Romania, was and it is coordinated and controlled by foreign interference. Before these elections was controlled by the former Secretary of State from United States, Blinken, and all the neocons. And after the President Trump and Trump-Vance administration is totally controlled by France. So actually the current Romanian president today is President of France, Macron. So Soros Macron, if I can say.
And that's quite interesting that he said that the real president of Romania is Macron, because Macron is a Freemason from the Grand Orient of France, which is the most politically inclined Masonic institution. And a very interesting thing that came out lately is the condemnation of the US State Department, who has completely slammed Romania, accusing them in this report, human rights report. So, I mean, they're actually nowadays being accused of not having kept in line with the human rights. I mean, this is an accusation that is just being published. Here you see August 12, 2025, US Department of State, the annual country reports on human rights practices. And we see that basically Romania, amongst these countries, is a country with some serious problems. And there is, of course, countries that have problems. Even Italy has problems. But the fact that there is, and here you see, Trump's State Department slams Romania globalist regime in human rights report. Elections results whipped, democracy under attack. So, I mean, this is white, sorry. And the president, so, I mean, it's like officially for its side multiple irregularities and violations of electoral law. The US State Department isn't buying it. However, because we are not buying the lies, the fact that the court claim Russian disinformation on social media.
And so old.
But this is the thing, guys. Europe is inevitably, with this kind of brainwashing in their own universities, becoming an enemy of the United States. And I tell you that because the young people, it's not only the people in the piazza, but it's the young people who go to the universities. Mm-hmm. And in those universities, we know already what happened here in America. The anti-Semitism, the level of brainwashing that they've been subject even here in America. But gradually, there is also young people here in America that are...
Somebody asked a question about Israel.
Well, Israel is very interesting, the fact that Europe is actually starting to recognize, like Macron, Palestine, that they are more and more anti-Semitic. It's quite interesting that all this lack of democracy goes in line with what the Nazi Party was doing, because that's what they are. They are the Fourth Reich. And I explained this very much in volume 7 of my Confessions, because this book is about the occult roots of the Great Reset. It's about the Nazis that helped the family of Klaus Schwab, that created Davos, which is a very important base for these globalists aside from the Bilderberg Club. So I would definitely suggest to get volume 7, because this was the book that they actually published in February 2022. The war hadn't even started yet. I mean, the whole Ukrainian-Russian conflict had not yet expanded to what we have now with the special operation of Vladimir Putin, but I already explained everything in this book. So, and then later on, of course, I also explained in volume 9 how Ukraine has been chosen to become some kind of digital playground for the future. This is another important element. So you see, the problem here is really to understand that we cannot trust the Europeans anymore.
I want to say one more thing.
Yeah.
Rome is in Europe, and the Pope was doing that horrible ritual right before all this stuff went down.
Yes, well, the Pope invited Zelensky to Castel Gandolfo. You can find the article on leozagami.com regarding the Green Mass that was celebrated at the summer residence of the Pope. And that is a kind of a weird synchronicity also, because it doesn't happen every day that the Pope devises a new Mass based on the great lie of climate change. But I repeat, all this happens because the Vatican Jesuits are the ones who really control Europe, as I explained in volume 12. They are, at the fundaments of it. So it's obvious that all that is happening. Let's continue hearing what the guy who wanted and could have become really Romania's new leader, the Romanian politician Georgescu, who was...
I have friends in Romania, and they're really nice.
I mean, I was actually, myself, I was involved with the Romanian Freemasonry, so I know very well how it works from the inside. And there's a lot of disappointment because there is no equilibrium anymore. It's like this country who used to formerly be under Russia and still has very strong connections with Russia, suddenly is pushed to reject all its connections with Russia. It's a little bit like Estonia. I brought Christy to Estonia, and
they were mean.
They were mean because
they were so mean in Estonia.
They thought that we were Russians at one point, and they were very mean. I was actually a guest at the national radio. I had a whole speech on the Jesuits and stuff, and I told them to re-embrace a little bit their Russian connections and to not treat the Russian minority in the wrong way. They didn't really understand it because they were so like Ukraine.
We got a curse thrown on us because they thought he was Russian. This witch guy thought he was Russian.
It was really...
And they threw a curse on him.
That was pretty insane.
In any case, the point is that very clear, I was an outsider. And because I was an outsider, they didn't control or didn't, let's say, had any suspicion in the early beginning, in the first round. About this I'm speaking. And my narrative was totally devoted to my people and was totally related with what we can do alone, how we can be Romanian independence. And with this narrative, including a program which I present for Romania, food, water, and energy, I succeed in the first round on the first place. And in the moment when you are outsider, of course, they alert immediately because they realize they can lose the power and the money.
And that doesn't happen only in Romania. That can happen in France with Le Pen. And if you think that Giorgia Meloni is a true center-right or right conservative figure, you are completely in the wrong. Giorgia Meloni is a compromised individual that has built this party, which simply goes along with what the Freemasons and the Jesuits want in Italy. And she will never do anything the Vatican doesn't want her to do. She goes regularly to Mass to the Vatican and bows down to the Jesuits. Giorgia Meloni is a fraud. And that is another thing that's very disappointing at Trump every time. Oh, Georgia. Because, of course, he knows very well that Italy is a country, it's not even a country, it's a colony of the United States that is kept there in this state since they were defrauded of the monarchy in favor of a republic because of the Democratic Party in 1946, and that everything that came after that was under the control of this Cold War apparatus, the stay-behind operations, Gladio, P2, and all the rest. But after the Cold War, Italy, of course, didn't protect itself anymore from communism, and communism took over everything. And so now it's a country in the hands of idiots that are brainwashed by Jesuits completely, and it's pathetic. It's completely pathetic, the way they are. I tried to make a difference, and I was punished severely. I was arrested, persecuted, tortured, locked up. I mean, Christy was with me, so she saw it with her own eyes. If you want to know more, of course, about what I went through, you can go through my books.
Well, you can read mine. I wrote it all down.
Confessions of an Illuminati Princess, Volume 1 and 2.
It's full of all the hexes they put on us, all the evil spells they put on us, and blah, blah, blah.
Absolutely.
And how we fought back and won.
Absolutely.
At least that little battle. There's a lot of battles, though.
Yeah. Well, now, one thing that, the decadence, the way that things are. And instead, here in America, with Trump, now with his executive order, we are actually, for the first time, cleaning homeless camps in Washington, D.C. This kind of thing is great. I mean, finally we can clear up this mess. People,
we can't live like that. You can't live in filth and chaos.
But
I mean, and we shouldn't be living like
here
that.
in California, they tolerate it and they seem to
Everybody
do
needs
nothing
to work.
about it. No, but these people, some have mental illnesses, some are pedophiles who don't want
But that's the system's fault.
Who don't want to be traced, because once you register yourself,
there's so much wrong with everything. Everything is so sabotaged.
Yeah, but now you see, this is great. I mean, the Europeans will watch this and they will be, oh wow, this is so evil. We need to help the homeless.
They're evil. They're insidious.
It is about really embracing reality, and the reality is that this society, if it's kept unchecked with this kind of homeless decline, and it becomes a third world country. We went back to Los Angeles after 5 years. We haven't been there.
I can't go to little Tokyo because it sucks.
But we went there for like a day in 2019 when we just arrived. We wanted to go
we've
down.
Been there a few times.
Yeah, no,
now.
but we went there in 2019, and what did we see? The difference. The trash and the encampments that were not there in 2014. So that was my first impression. That's, of course, we went back there and we were like, at that point,
it was more
we knew what it was about.
Like the homeless encampments were in the suburban area. So like we're driving in the suburbs, and then you're seeing all of this stuff that used to be Skid Row has like extended into the suburbs. So we're like actually going to meet somebody, and I mean, it's like creeping into their house. I mean, it's practically creeping into their backyard. So, yeah. And everybody's forced to look at it in California. I mean, we have this beautiful nature around us, but then we're forced to live in this filth.
It's really terrible. It's really terrible that we are in this situation. But this decline is decline that the whole of the West is actually has this decline that is meant to destroy all our certainties and to retransform our society. Because after this, guys, the next phase.
They're doing it to us. They are doing it to us, and they're causing the problem is what they're doing.
But they're causing the problem because then the next phase is, of course, the cyber Satan, AI, smart cities, smart this, smart that, and this danger, guys, of the smart cities, the smart cars, and everything connected to the AI expanding unchecked is actually being reported. And today I want to show you a video that is quite interesting. Is the godfather of AI, Geoffrey Hinton, that warns that we must teach AI systems to genuinely care about human beings, because otherwise we're going to be wiped off by this by the AI. This is the kind of, he wants to develop a sort of maternal instinct for the AI of the future, because that's the only way they might not eliminate us.
A stark warning about artificial intelligence from Geoffrey Hinton, the Nobel Prize-winning scientist whose pioneering research helped lay the groundwork for AI. That's why he's often called the godfather of AI. Hinton says there's a 10 to 20% chance AI will wipe out humans, but made headlines today suggesting at a conference that the tech industry should somehow install what he termed maternal instincts into superintelligent AI, so they'll protect humans like mothers protect their babies.
Wow, somebody should protect Anderson. Anderson Cooper. Moving forward on what went on yesterday with this great meeting that, of course, all the leftists are saying is just a photo op, Trump wanting to show off, and the whole thing is a nothing burger. I mean, the incredible thing about the people like CNN, we just saw what Anderson Cooper said about the AI, and once in a while they do some reports that actually have a sense of reality, but most of the time it's just propaganda. This, guys, was something that me and Christy watched earlier today, and it was just like such bullshit.
Smiles, hand pats, postures, and a pat on the back even. What does it all mean? There was a lot to take note of in the body language between President Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin at Friday's Alaska summit. Those nonverbal cues from the two leaders. Here with us now to help break it all down, body language expert Mary Civillo. Mary, great to see you. Sometimes
Hi, Frederica.
so
Good
much
to see you.
Wonderful. So much is said sometimes non-verbally. So that's why we have you here. So, a lot of analysts agree that Putin came into this with a great advantage, an invitation to U.S. soil without concessions. The two presidents, meeting on the red carpet that was rolled out, applause even from President Trump, handshakes, even Trump patting the back of the Russian president's hand. So in that sequence, what did you see?
I saw two guys that were coming together, hadn't seen you for a little while. Good to see you. It was all, all systems go.
Okay, so these people today went on record trying to interpret the language of signs of Vladimir Putin and Donald J. Trump. Guys,
they don't. Can I say something?
Tell me something.
But they don't know what Trump is thinking. They don't know what Putin is thinking. They don't know.
But and they say the body language. The body language.
That's just baloney. I mean, they don't know what they're thinking. So, I mean, to think that you know somebody like that and then to be so smug about it, I don't know.
Couldn't be friendly on both sides. Trump, the gracious host, Putin thrilled to be here.
Mm-hmm. And then, as you see here, they're walking on the red carpet. Eventually, they kind of saunter off to Trump's limo called the Beast. Putin actually smiling, looking very joyful right there in the back seat, almost like making sure to the cameras, you see me here, right? What do you see there?
Oh, yeah. I mean, he from the get-go, and in fact, throughout, he just looked as though it was, this is fantastic. And it is especially pronounced. You really notice it if you think back to Helsinki. Frederica, I remember 2018, right. The last time they met, Putin was kind of slouched, in the after thing. And he's just kind of like, all right.
Almost like, I don't really want to be here.
Interpretations, guys. I mean, whatever. One thing is that Putin and Trump met, and finally, the U.S. and Russia are not about to trigger a nuclear Armageddon, because during the Biden year, every 2 minutes we thought we would be wiped off from the face of the earth. I mean, I'm not saying that they're going to reach the ultimate solution regarding Ukraine.
When Reagan went to meet Gorbachev, I had to stay home from school that day.
Well, in Iceland.
Yeah, and I was like, I was a kid, but I was so happy that we weren't in a war with Russia. And I was, I'm just saying how I felt. And I had this same feeling that I was happy that we're not at war. And I was also happy we weren't in a war with North Korea. When he makes friends, and then he said that he's friends with Xi Jinping and that he has a lot of friends. So
yes, actually, he said that because Xi Jinping promised him he will not invade Taiwan until he's there at the presidency. We can all relax. Now, we hope that's the case, because, of course, invading Taiwan will trigger a big mess.
All these dictators, you know.
No, but the thing is, guys, you have to have balls. So you have to have really, this world is ruled by gangsters. I'm not saying that I'm not portraying Trump as the savior of saviors, but I'm not saying that you can put Trump on the same level of Barack Obama, Joe Biden, or Kamala Harris, or Hillary Clinton. That is what David Icke does. David Icke is a leftist, an anarchic. I respect him because for many reasons he has been, of course, one of the first people to, in a way, from the 90s, of course, after Jordan Maxwell attacked what is the reality of the New World Order. But we need to have some hope that things, if they can change, at least they can go in a better direction. If you hear David Icke, these days, David Icke is portraying, of course, everybody's control. David Icke says that no, but David Icke says that Trump can't be trusted because, of course, he compromised like everybody else with Epstein and blah blah blah. Guys, the thing is that Vladimir Putin used to hang out with Silvio Berlusconi. When the actual elite wanted to get rid of Silvio Berlusconi, of course, they used a minor, which he might not even have known she was a minor. She was like 16 or 17, I think, at the time, Ruby. And they used her to get him out of the way. And of course, then they paved the way for Mario Monti, who is head, at the time was head of the Trilateral Commission and one of the heads of the Bilderberg, and they brought him in. And that's when Italy was brought into the dark ages, because from that moment onwards, I don't think we had, Berlusconi wasn't a saint, but at least he was genuine in his colorful way of doing things. Nowadays, we have just people that bow down to the system, to Europe, to the EU, to people like the von der Leyen, which is a Nazi, because that's what she is. And von der Leyen needs to be respected because she orders Europeans around, and that's what a European dictator does. But that's actually what they claim is liberal democracy. So,
yeah. No, I was just going to say that, just with Trump and his character and stuff, I mean, we're not supposed to judge. We're just supposed to look at the actions. And I think I was, when he was saying all those things, okay, I don't like it. I don't. But I'm not going to be like that. I love America more than I love my hurt feelings. So I don't care if he hurt my feelings. Okay.
I repeat.
I think he loves America.
But you should then repeat why you are saying that. It was in relation to his criticism of the MAGA movement that got fixated with the whole Epstein thing, which I
didn't care about.
Of course, the Epstein thing is not out of the window yet, guys. When Congress is back in September, we're going to probably, the whole thing is going to be rehashed. And of course, we want to have some honesty regards to that.
But this thing with Melania, Melania.
That about anti-Biden accusing. No, that was fake.
It's fake. It was fake. It was completely fake. And probably, a lot of this stuff is because I can see the way the left are so gleeful. I mean, I can just watch it and it's very confusing to people, and it's just meant to confuse us because they're so like, ooh, and all of a sudden they look better, and they're not like all donkey looking. They're all like, ooh, and we think this, and they're all of a sudden taking the moral high ground. The thing
is that these guys who never gave a damn about the Epstein scandal, and now suddenly it's all they're talking about. I mean, if you go back 5 or 10 years, there was only a bunch of people, including people like Alex Jones, talking about what Jeffrey Epstein was doing. And everybody was, of course, mocking us. And you know what happened also with InfoWars. Later on, they removed all our videos from, including mine, from YouTube and all that. And instead, now they talk about this whole case. The thing that a bit it's like Alex Jones should be still talking about Jeffrey Epstein, but maybe, I don't know. At this point, it's like you want to align with Trump, but you also have to be critical of Trump when he does the wrong thing. And in the case of the Jeffrey Epstein affair, I think that he has done things in a way. He was advised in the wrong way, and I hope that he clears things in the future.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Is that okay?
I agree. And then I was just going to put my 2 cents in about the crypto.
No, but
that's my own thing. That's my own thing.
I mean, crypto,
that's my thing.
That is another thing. In regards to, though, the future of America, of course, I'm not saying Trump has all the answers. Of course, everybody knows that once you arrive to the White House, there's a certain degree of compromise, which every president, unfortunately, has to be involved in, and it's called, usually national security, or it's operating under this national security umbrella, which is quite wide, and at times, of course, is used in the wrong way. But I mean, that avoids us living in anarchy or living in Botswana or in some African country ruled by some wild dictators. We still have at least the possibility of talking freely in the Trump era. The changes that we had, and that's why I started the show today talking about the fact checkers. The fact that Europe still has fact checkers and we don't have them. That it's the whole thing.
That's great.
I mean,
the first thing they did to you was censor you in Italy when they didn't like how you were moving and what you were doing. The first thing they did was remove your books, and then they wanted to remove you.
Absolutely.
Because you wouldn't stop, so then they're like, okay, we're going to have to remove him. So
and the guys, the Great Britain is no better. In fact, you remember before we decided to come here in America, I was thinking about maybe going to Great Britain because I'm half English. But then I heard of the kind of censorship that was coming to England, to Great Britain, and the fact that they had actually visited the guy for a Facebook post. I said, that's no better than Italy. And so now the State Department is actually concerned over the free speech, and they say that UK human rights situation is worsened, and that, now there actually has been a petition signed by, I think, 700,000 people that the Starmer guy has to resign. So I hope he does. But the problem is, guys, you can't criticize the Muslims. And I was in a lodge, in a Masonic lodge, and Christy was my witness because it was a very rare mixed lodge with men and women, but there were members of the American Lodge of England present, even if it was all a big cover, and secretive. But in this lodge, I was doing this speech saying that they should do more about what was happening, with these Muslims that were threatening the freedom of the West, including the fact that you could gather in a Masonic lodge. I said, listen, you could end up like the Masonic lodge in Turkey, what was blown up by a Muslim fundamentalist. And immediately they silenced me. And Christy Christy was like, jeez, man!
I almost got mad. Beat him up.
I wasn't. No, but I mean, it was like they silenced me because they are afraid. I'm glad that the British people have had enough of Starmer. But the problem is, and they have signed this petition that is being signed by so many people, and I hope that they will remove him. But unfortunately, the British system is rigged. So the future of Europe, I repeat, is uncertain. Now, if something doesn't happen, of course, either we go into the direction of a technocracy that rules everything in a dictatorial way with no freedom for the people living in Europe, or otherwise we go towards a civil war in which the Muslims and stuff start, and there starts to be fights that we already have seen. this kind of thing happening in Great Britain already in the past. I've discussed it also in volume 10 of my Confessions. People ask me about Israel. Now, Israel, guys, is controlled basically by the Sabbatean Frankists since it was created by them. It was the Sabbatean Frankists who took over the Zionist movement, who established Israel. And at that point, they have used the 7th of October with Netanyahu in a way that has brought us now to where to this situation. But I mean, guys, to give the people, the Palestinian people, their own country, there is so many Arab countries already. Why don't they take them in themselves? What is happening, for example, in Lebanon in the last 24 hours should make you understand. The Hezbollah leader has said that if they try to dismantle Hezbollah, all hell will break loose in Lebanon. And that will mean a new civil war in Lebanon. So this gives you an idea, no? Mm-hmm. The moment in which you want to dismantle these groups like Hamas or Hezbollah or other groups because they have so much power. And I'm sorry that, there's been, of course, even journalists that were killed, but then we go and see those journalists. Who were these journalists? Apparently they were on the payroll of Hamas. They were actually, and it's obvious, Al Jazeera is in Qatar. I explain in this book that the main financer of Hamas is Qatar, together with Iran. So, I mean, you only need to read this book, which is Islamic Freemasonry and the Secret Societies Behind the Eternal Conflict in the Middle East. I have a journalist from Al Jazeera who asked for my friendship. I haven't given him the friendship on Facebook. Yeah, who from a guy who is born in Gaza and lives in, I think, in Ramallah, and who is, he works for the PR, he does public relationship for Al Jazeera. I'm not like my colleagues who will compromise to have, millions of people watching him. I want to be honest. This situation is very much a mess for over 1,000 years. It's not going to get any better soon, but definitely we cannot say that one side is better than the other. There is no sides that are better than the other. Christians, of course, are being killed, and they're being killed also in Syria. And Christians are nowadays being killed because nobody does anything, even in Africa, Nigeria, whatever. Christians are being killed every day because the Vatican doesn't say anything. The Pope, if this happened 1,000 years ago, at least we know that the Pope will have probably started a crusade. Nowadays, nothing. Mm-hmm. They kill Christians, and Christians are just like, okay, they killed another Christian. Who cares? If I do Jesus Christ Superstar with a lesbian black woman, nobody says anything. If I did a representation of Mohammed with a lesbian black woman, they will blow up the whole of London. In London these days, there is a lesbian black woman doing Jesus Christ Superstar. I mean, that is enough, no? To just make it. This shows you there is no balance. No. You can mock Christianity, but there you go. If I mock Mohammed, peace be upon him, and the whole hell will break loose if we make a little cartoon about him. Guys, we need to defend Christianity. We need to defend, of course, Judaism, but we need to defend all the people who are balanced enough to not go into war for religion, which is completely demented, because, I mean, to go into war with religion is going to bring us, obviously, in a dark past. But in Europe, now, Europe, the way it is being taken over by Islam. That's what it is. France is being taken over by Islam. Great Britain is being taken over by Islam. Italy is being taken over by Islam because the Italians don't have kids. The Italians got vaccinated, and at that point, infertility comes with it. And so the whole thing is that the future of Europe, according to this Kalergi plan, devised by this Kalergi guy, which I've been talking about in my books, and also in the past in a legendary article on InfoWars I published many years ago, is about replacing the Europeans with something else. So Europe, it's waging war against America the way it is now, but at the same time they are spiraling in uncertainty, and probably they are willing to suicide their own people like they did with the vaccines. I mean, during the pandemic, they obliged people over 50, like me, to get vaccinated. An Italian citizen over 50 during the pandemic was obliged to get $100 fine every month. It's insane. Please share this video. I hope you like this show. I hope.
Thank you for the clarity, More. We need it.
Well, I try to do my best.
It feels good.
I think that
the truth feels good. The clarity feels good.
That's good. I mean, that's very good. I think
I don't like, not understanding things, and now that everything is more clear, I feel much better and more at peace.
Well, I mean, one thing that I also realize is that the Orthodox Church that Putin follows so much is definitely a bastion of true Christianity that the woke Catholics and the other branches of the Orthodox Church are watching very closely, because they would like Kirill and the Orthodox Russian Church to join their future one world melting pot of religions that ultimately is going to bow down to the AI. And now, guys, in China, they have built a robot to give birth to a child. And this robot is going to be sold for $14,000. Very affordable price.
It's like a car.
And all this was envisioned in Brave New World of Aldous Huxley. So, I mean, it's like Aldous Huxley, which I mentioned many times in my books, had envisioned this whole thing. And so women are not, the Chinese want to sell this robot because in Guangdong, in those areas, there is a high infertility rate. They have problems, of course, making babies in China. And now they're going to just have robots making little Chinese. And so finally, we're going to have more Chinese. If we need more Chinese in the world, they're going to come out of a robot.
Nice.
Now, today, I'm going to close down, not with the usual track, but with the new track of Vincenzo Viceversa.
Is it later?
No, it's an electronic track. It's dedicated because of the subject we touched today. It was actually released yesterday. Yesterday was a special anniversary for my Italian show, 6 years of my Italian show. And so this track is called East Berlin. It's going to be published in September. We went to Berlin, me and Christy. We actually went also to what used to be East Berlin. I was playing records there in Berlin because I used to actually be a famous DJ in Berlin back in the middle of the 90s. And I used to work also.
They still treat you good.
This track is by Vincenzo Viceversa, the guy who does all my book covers. So he's the same guy who does the track we usually end our shows with. But it's a different track. It's more electronic. Guys, I want to show you before we leave you, though, the pizza of the week, because Christy and I on Saturday is pizza time. And today we did some amazing pizzas. So let me show you the pizzas that you can all do if you get, of course, the Zagami family cookbook. This is an amazing pizza. How was this pizza, Christy?
I don't know that one because we haven't eaten it yet.
But the other one?
It was excellent.
Okay, so let me show the other pizza. The other pizza was a margherita, very good margherita. I must say that me and Christy have perfection pizza to a level that we could really open the best pizzeria in California.
Yeah, we almost killed each other in the process.
Yeah, no, in fact,
there's a lot of yelling going on.
Every other pizzeria probably in that cage. This is the ultimate margherita made today. I must say, level of perfection. Huh? How was it, Christy? Huh?
It was pretty dang good.
It was very good. Guys, you can also do your pizza. You can find out how by purchasing the Zagami Family Cookbook. You find it on Amazon, and it tells you right from scratch how you have to do this pizza. And in the end, you know, if you master pizza, you don't have to buy those cheap frozen pizzas or spend $30 minimum to get a decent pizza. Trust me. Buy the Zagami Family Cookbook, and with very little money, you will be able to eat a delightful pizza every week. And here we go. East Berlin, DDRV, is actually a track by great Vincenzo Viceversa. Electronic, eh? What is it? You have to find the vibe.
I'm trying to find it.
You have to find the vibe. Okay.
Wait.
Huh?
Okay, I got it.
Got it? Okay. Ladies and gentlemen.
What's going on?
Go!
Yo, that's pretty good.
See you next week. I see you next week for the Leo Zagami Show, Lee and Christy. I don't know, but I think we're going to get some. What?
Yeah. I got real one. I got real one.
Maybe need to go this before next time. See you soon with the Leo Zagami Show, the best show on the internet. The symbol of East Germany, East Berlin, it reminds me also of Stasi, the Secret Service. They love this kind of thing in Europe, or they deserve this kind of thing in Europe, because unfortunately this is what is ruling Europe now.
So thank you very much. Now there's